Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and Apple might be doing something just a little bit unorthodox this year, and that is releasing 6 different sets of iPhones. And this comes out of a report of Macotakara, which recently has a pretty good track record on which Apple products are going to be announced for the year, and they're saying something really unorthodox is going to happen with this year's iPhone lineup, and that is that the iPhone XS, the iPhone XS Max, and of course the iPhone XR are kind of going to stick around. So these phones would get some internal improvements like an A13 chip, but for all intensive purposes, these phones are kind of going to stick around for the year, and then Apple is going to introduce 2 new iPhone models, a 6.1-inch OLED phone, which is very similar to the form factor of the iPhone XR, but obviously would have that OLED screen and probably slimmer bezels, much like the iPhone XS, and a 6.5-inch OLED phone, kind of like the iPhone XS Max, and that these 2 new additions to the lineup would have a triple lens camera setup, and that would set Apple up with 5 iPhones for 2019. Let's dissect this a little more. So this triple lens iPhone setup has kind of been leaked now for the past year. We've been expecting the iPhone to adopt a triple lens camera system this year, and now we're starting to see a lot of leaks. First, we saw the 3D render leaks with a couple competing designs. It seems that that square design that I talked about in a previous video is the design that Apple will be going with, and this lines up with schematic leaks that we've seen for the iPhone 11 and even complete with hardware leaks of some components for the iPhone 11, showing the back of the iPhone 11 complete with all of the triple camera cutouts. And it looks like this iPhone 11, one of the main features on it is going to be this triple lens camera system, and that really doesn't come as a surprise to me because as the smartphone market has grown, a lot of people have been pointing out the photo quality of modern smartphones, and flagship smartphones, one of the best-selling features on that smartphone is the improvement of the camera system year over year, and we might be seeing Apple trying to reclaim their undisputed top status as the best smartphone camera maker. So to me, the iPhone 11 right now is just all about the camera. And based on current leaks, we're expecting a 14 megapixel and a 10 megapixel triple lens camera setup. So you would have a standard camera like you do on the iPhone now, and then you would also have a zoom lens, and those would be the 14 megapixel cameras. With that 14 megapixels, it might also mean a change to the zoom lens, maybe moving from 2x to 5x, because now that the camera has a 14 megapixel sensor, that means when you take a standard photo on the iPhone, you could digital zoom and crop in a little bit more than you were used to, kind of making the change between the 14 megapixel standard and the 2x a little bit lacking, so maybe Apple will even extend that out further to a 5 times zoom, or maybe even lower, maybe a 3 times zoom range, but that would kind of give you more flexibility with your photos by extending not only the physical zoom range, but also by digitally cropping the photos. And the 10 megapixel part of that camera sensor will probably be for the ultra wide angle lens. If you've looked at other flagship smartphones with an ultra wide angle, you'll notice that the megapixel counts are generally lower. Another interesting thing to note in these leaks is that supposedly the camera sensor size itself is going to get a lot larger inside of the iPhone 11. And maybe that's why the camera bump on the iPhone 11 is so big. When I first saw the design of this, a lot of people were freaking out, calling it ugly, and I said if Apple truly has a really good reason for making the camera bump that big, and if they are including 3 different lenses and a general just bigger size sensor, that could improve the smartphone photography quite a lot in the iPhone. With having a larger sensor, you can let in a lot more light, which will lead to better low light photos, and just the general detail inside of those photos and videos that you get from an iPhone 11. This could be a really big advantage that other smartphone manufacturers currently don't have. What's interesting with these leaks is that this iPhone 11 won't even come in a 5.8-inch size, which is the standard size of the iPhone X and iPhone XS, and supposedly it will be coming in a 6.1-inch size, which will be physically about the same dimensions as an iPhone XR, which is interesting because at first we heard that only the 11 Max would be getting the triple lens camera setup, and now with this 6.1 edition, maybe Apple had to make the physical size bigger of the iPhone XS to fit a triple camera module on it. But that also means that the main flagship for the iPhone 11 won't include the smaller size 5.8-inch screen, which is kind of a bummer because a lot of people do like that form factor, and it would be nice to get a phone with that form factor that does have all of the new features, and especially the triple lens camera. Now, this Macotakara report also comes fresh on another leaker on leaks on Twitter saying that the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Max, and the iPhone 11R will all be coming with a triple lens camera setup, and that there won't be these two additional phones in the lineup. OnLeaks also says that the iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Max will be getting a frosted glass back, which I reported on in a previous video, and that frosted glass back would be an exclusive to the iPhone 11, so it wouldn't be coming to the iPhone 11R. So two conflicting reports here, and if you ask me which side am I on, if I'm going with the Macotakara report or the OnLeaks leak, I'm probably going with OnLeaks here. I just can't see Apple releasing 5 separate different iPhone SKUs that are all updated in some way. Now, I could see Apple keeping the iPhone XS, XS Max, and XR around in the lineup. They've kept old phones in the lineup before, but if they did that, they would probably reduce the price point on them, and then they would bring over these new iPhone 11 and iPhone 11R phones, and then there wouldn't be this mix-up of having the A13 in an iPhone XS and then the new iPhone 11's coming out, and then you have to present 5 different phones on stage at once. That would really mix up the marketing, and I think it would be really hard for people to tell the difference, especially if they're going to be keeping a lot of the same external design. Of course, the iPhone 11 would have a giant camera bump on the back of it, so I guess that's how you could tell the difference. The Macotakara reports also note that the iPhone 11 is going to be thicker than the current iPhone XS. So it would be 0.4 millimeters thicker than the XS and 0.2 millimeters thicker than the XS Max. And by being thicker, this would also make the camera bump smaller, and this makes a lot of sense to me because the camera bump on the iPhone 11 leaks that we're seeing does look to be quite big and bulbous, and maybe if it is that big and they can reduce the camera bump, it won't be as unsightly as a lot of these renders are currently making it out. That increased thickness could also help with the bigger battery sizes that we heard about, and that the iPhone 11 series will be getting around 25% bigger batteries inside of them, which will also lead to a new feature with reverse wireless charging like the latest Samsung Galaxy phones have, and that would be really a great feature for people who got that new AirPods wireless charging case. So you can charge that on the back of your iPhone, and you'll probably also be able to charge your Apple Watch on the back of your phone. So that would be a nice addition for people who have AirPods, who have the Apple Watch, and you don't have to charge things like your AirPods that much, so you could just stick them on the back of your iPhone. Or if you're staying away at night, you bring one charger, plug in your iPhone, put the Apple Watch on the back of the iPhone, and then when you wake up, both devices would be charged. And that's leading to the end of this report where Macotakara claims that Apple will indeed be shipping a 18-watt fast charging brick for the iPhone 11. We've heard reports saying that Apple might stick around with the 5-watt. This is one of the first reports I've heard that Apple is deciding to ship the 18-watt charger, which is currently the charger they ship with the new iPad Pros. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, these iPhones will still have a lightning connector, so these 18-watt fast charging bricks will ship with a USB-C to lightning cable. And of course, these are just the new rumors coming out on the iPhone 11, and of course we can also expect it to have new features like an A13 chip. The 11 and 11 Max are going to retain OLED screens, while the 11R is going to have an LCD screen, and possibly a slightly different design on the front with a smaller notch than the iPhone XS, and potentially better Face ID for the iPhone 11. Maybe it will have the same support that that the iPad Pros do, so you can hold your iPhone up in any different orientation that you want. If you're holding it sideways, if you're holding it upside down, and Face ID will still be able to work, and maybe some speed improvements as well. Now this leads us to the end of the video where I want to talk about one more iPhone coming out, and that would be an iPhone in 2020, more towards the first half of the year, and that would be the long-rumored iPhone SE 10 style of phone. With DigiTimes reporting that Apple released 3 OLED iPhones in 2020, a 5.42-inch iPhone, a 6.06 iPhone, and a 6.67-inch iPhone. Supposedly, this iPhone SE 10 will come with a thinner OLED display and touchscreen technology that LG and Samsung are currently working on. For Samsung, it's called the Y-Octa, and for LG, it's called the TOE Touch Technology. And supposedly this OLED technology that LG and Samsung are working on is going to reduce the cost of the OLED screen component inside of the iPhone, so that does make some sense if Apple is planning a cheaper version, an iPhone SE in a smaller body type, because one of the main appealing factors of the iPhone SE, besides from being smaller, was that it was a more inexpensive iPhone to produce, so this would line up with Apple releasing a lower cost iPhone. And to reiterate, this will be a 2020 iPhone, not a 2019 iPhone, so don't be looking for it soon, but Apple might decide to release it earlier in the year, kind of in the mid-refresh between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11s, like they kind of did with the iPhone SE when it came out, and that will probably have things like an A13 chip inside of it, although the details on the iPhone SE 10 are currently really sparse because all we have is this supply chain leak of smaller, more affordable OLED screens that could potentially make its way into an iPhone. But enough about what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for the iPhone 11? What do you think about the current design? What features would you like to see Apple add to the iPhone 11? And do you agree with me that maybe the reason for that giant camera bump is that this year we're going to get a major improvement in camera technology? If you like the video, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, including more coverage on the iPhone 11, make sure you subscribe. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.